Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 82. See, I don't have to look at what the last episode was anymore. I got it. It's right off the dome, baby. It's right off the dome. I'm not sure exactly how to kick this one off because I got so much out of my head last week by putting out five and a half hours of a podcast in like 2 days. But hey, at least we're back on the one episode per week, technically, pace. So yeah. We're officially back on the grind, back working on videos, and it feels good. I like getting back to work. I've managed to fix my sleep schedule in a couple days. I'm waking up a little earlier than I would like 4 a.m. But if I can, I don't mind too much. It's better honestly than I much prefer waking up early to waking up late. Something about waking up late makes me feel like, I don't know. I guess it's dumb to say that, yes, technically I literally have more time in the day if I wake up earlier, but it's more so that when it's night for excuse me, when it's night for most of the time that I'm awake, it's like it's I ran into this problem 2 years ago. I was for like a couple months I was on like a totally nocturnal sleep schedule, and it was really cool for a little while, and then I realized that I was just losing track of time. It's funny, but like the sun, going up and down is a very natural, like for your body, like a natural indicator of the time passing. And so when I was just, up all night and then I would sleep all day and wake up, sometime in the afternoon, evening, it's just dark all the time, and it feels weird. It's like the time sort of compresses. I'm not sure how long stuff is really taking. It was cool for a bit. That was kind of in the period after I graduated high school, and I really, really just wanted to get away from people and kind of like detox and live in the quiet nighttime world. But I think that's one thing. Like because I'm I guess self-motivated. I'm just self-employed technically, I guess. I need some kind of some way to. It's so easy for me to just lose like a schedule or something, or it's really hard to just keep onto specifically a sleep schedule for me, because I could just spend an extra 5 hours, stayed up 5 hours later than I usually would, completely throw myself off. So I found that I kind of need work to sort of structure my day around. Like I need some kind of pressure. A life of leisure is actually quite uncomfortable in a lot of ways. So now that I'm sort of back, and I'm still in like the research footage collecting phase of the next video. I don't want to spoil what it is because I'm excited. I think it's gonna be cool. I think you guys are gonna like it. And it's not a negative topic. I feel like I don't like doing too many negative videos in a row. I like to have a little pickup. I'm sorry, I'm getting like 1,000 messages from a Discord server right now. I have to mute this for like fucking 3 hours or whatever. There we go. So I'm back kind of on my feet, I guess. I'm feeling good. It's the one thing is that it's been really hard to take walks. That's another part of my day is I like to get a walk in at least once a day. And it's been raining here on the West Coast. It has been pouring. And even when it clears up, you get into that. I don't know. There's if there's not, there should be a term for that kind of like psychological, that like hesitance that occurs when you're like, it clears up and you're like, oh, it's clear now, but it could come down any minute now. I don't want to get caught out, even with an umbrella. I don't want to get caught out when the deluge starts coming raining down. And so you just kind of sit by the window and you're like, well, it's clear. I could leave now, but it could come down any minute now. And then you just do that the entire day, and then it never rains. And it never rains, so you spend the whole day thinking, at any minute now. So recently I've just kind of been like, fuck it, I'll take my chances. I'll go out for like 20, 30 minutes, walk around the neighborhood. And I've been pretty fine. I've taken an umbrella. I've been all right. Maybe it pays off to take a risk every once in a while. Daily, I guess, if I do it daily. I haven't done it this morning because it was too dark for me to see if it was raining. Yeah. Oh, you know what I had this morning? I was like, I walk into the kitchen. We have pita bread. The with the holes, the flap in it, so you can fill it up. And I was like, oh, I have an idea. So I made myself a little calzone. I just kind of stuffed some shredded cheese, and some tomato sauce in there, put it in the microwave oven on bake, not on toast. Got to be on bake. And then I took it out, used a little pizza cutter, cut into a couple slices. Ooh, it was quite good. I'd recommend. There's so much cheap food you can make that's pretty tasty. I am like, speaking of the microwave oven. Well, actually, no, it was a toaster oven. Sorry, toaster oven. Not a microwave oven. That I made my calzone in. The toaster oven, set to bake. But I like 2 years ago, something like that, and probably longer. My eyes were opened up to microwave settings, for different settings on the microwave, because my whole life I've just been using the microwave, and it's really incredible. You can spend your whole life using an appliance with a billion different buttons on it, and you only use one. You only just put it in punch in a time and then hit start. And that's the only way you use it. But then we ran into this problem where I was eating like a lot of leftovers and stuff, and it was cold, right? And I wanted to heat it up, but I would heat it up, and the bowl or the container or the plate or whatever would get hotter than the food itself, and it would always be cold at the center. And that's really annoying, obviously. So I started to just, I don't know, it was annoying. I put up with it for a while because I just figured, that's just how it is. There's no other option. But then I took a second look at the what would you call it? The interface, the array of buttons, and I realized, there's a button on here that says reheat. And if I open up the microwave, I can see on the inside there's a little label that says how to use the reheat thing. Like press reheat, and then you have a couple different options for different kinds of foods, and then like how much, or like how what the weight is, basically how many grams of the food you're heating up. Excuse me. And I was like, why don't I try that out? And I did, and oh my god, it works. It usually takes longer to like reheat it because of like the setting that it's at, but like you take it out and it's like, damn, this is reheated. It's hot all the way through, and the bowl isn't like like a lot made of lava, magma, I suppose. Magma. Well, it's all liquid technically, lava and magma. Let's say molten rock. No, it's the same thing. Is lava molten rock? Is lava molten rock? It's the same thing. Scientists use the term magma for molten rock that is underground, and lava for molten rock that breaks through the earth. Oh, okay. So molten rock is lava and magma, but when it's underground, it's magma. When it's above ground, it's lava. I see. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Lava's really cool. Yeah, looking at pictures of lava. Speaking of pizza, it just looks like a big, like a forbidden pizza. What was I talking about? Oh, the microwave settings. So yeah, I've gotten super into like using the different microwave settings, for what I need. I'm going with defrost, going with reheat, going with it's kind of the only ones that I use. It's funny, I've literally read like I made popcorn one time, and I looked on the instructions and it said, do not use the popcorn setting on the microwave. And I'm like, well, why is it there? Why would you make popcorn that's incompatible with the microwave popcorn setting? Unless, well, maybe it's more on the microwave manufacturers. Why are you making microwaves with popcorn settings that are incompatible with the latest and greatest popcorn? So I was over at Kat's house the other day, and I wanted to reheat something, and I was looking at the reheat settings, and she goes, just put it in for fucking 30 seconds, you clown, you absolute buffoon. She didn't say it quite that way, but she basically just said, why are you fiddling with the reheat setting? I'm like, because I wanted to get it reheated. I don't want to just like melt it, because that's what you're doing. You're just putting it on high. That's the basic setting, is heating it on high. And I think you can adjust the power, right? You can technically adjust how high you're putting it on. That's one of the things that like clued me in. I was like, I've always read, put it in the microwave on high, and I was like, what else is there? And then I looked at the buttons. That was what it was. I thought about it for a second. I'm like, is there any option other than high or whatever? Like I never thought about it as, I always thought about it as, just putting it in the microwave, never putting it in the microwave on high. The microwave, it sounds like a religious thing, the microwave on high. Hey, speaking of, sort of, I saw a really funny video this morning. It was filmed in like 2001, but it got uploaded a couple, like 2014, something like that. It's called The Price Master. It's like a 30-minute recording, I guess, like edited together documentation of what I would essentially describe as a performance art piece that some guys did in their front lawn. Where they basically... So The Price Master... Seriously, go look this up. It's great. The Price Master is basically... The deal was that they had a yard sale in front of their house. But it wasn't any normal yard sale. Well, so first of all, they had a bunch of odd kind of items. Like, they had a dollar bill listed for 50 cents. There was like a tank with like... I'm pretty sure it was fake, but it was like a dead fish with like murky brown water. There was like just random weird little knickknacks and like a chainsaw and just a very disparate, it's a weird garage sale kind of. It's something's a little off, but the thing that's really off is that standing on the porch of the house is a man in a costume. It looks like a weird jacket, and like a ski mask with a face mask over top of it, and like a little hole cut out for the mouth. And he has these weird baggy pants, and he's just kind of doing these weird kind of motions, like these weird stiff motions, and there's like some sort of music, like high pitched, like Tibetan. I don't know. I'm gonna be completely wrong here, but like Tibetan monk meditation, like with like flutes and violins and stuff like that. In the background, it's playing super loud, and he has this microphone, and so someone will. Someone will ask, like, hey, how much is this thing? Someone will ask, how much is this thing? And then he talks into the microphone. They have these giant speakers with like a fuck ton of reverb put on them. And he just goes, $7,000. I just blew the fuck out of the mic. And it's like 30 minutes of that, just people being confused and like trying to like argue with him, and he'll just repeat the $546. The Price Master has spoken. Make me a deal. And it's just normal ass people in 2001. I think it was filmed in like Texas somewhere, like Dorton, Texas, something like that. Oh my god, so fucking funny. Just bizarre, weird. I loved it. It's like 30 minutes long. I guess I should jump into what the real podcast is. I kind of want to look at pictures of lava, like right now. Like I got these lava pictures up. It's so cool looking because it's that halfway. It's like liquid, but it's also like a solid. It's a melting liquid. It's like red and goopy, but it's like not. It's so cool, right? I want to take a big. Apparently, if you fall into lava, contrary to what a lot of video games will have you believe, lava is not like a thin liquid. It's pretty much like I mean, it's rock, right? It's just molten rock. It's almost like sinking in quicksand, except it's scorching white hot. It's actually like super brutal to drown in lava. I don't know why I'm laughing about this. But it's pretty cool, huh? Right, so there was no comments last time. Well, there was no questions on either of the last two episodes. I put out 2 episodes in a row, and no one has any questions for me. I feel so lonely. No, it's fine. You have no obligation to ask a question. But there's a couple things, like I wanted to go over a quick little cool, awesome Epico, oh my god, I picked that up from Prox, Epico story, which is that the announcement, the release date for the Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2 rollback patch finally announced. So the rollback patch is going to be hitting on the 20th of this month in literally like 4 days. So that's really cool, and it actually happens I found that out right after I signed up for a local, hey, if you're in the Northern California area, and you're going to Slashback in March, I'll be there, potentially with Kat. So if you're in the area, it's Slashback. It's like the first year, but it's aiming to be like a big new NorCal FGC event. So I entered specifically. I kind of wanted to enter for all 3 Guilty Gear games that they're offering. It's like Plus R, Rev 2, Strive. Then they've also got Type Lumina, Grand Blue, a bunch of other shit. But and I kind of wanted to enter for every Guilty Gear game, but it's a little pricey. It's like $10 per tournament per game that you want to enter, and then like a base $40, base $40 for the early bird special. Early bird special ends literally today, so it's already. So I got my registration yesterday. So I literally got the last day for it. Now it's $50. So minimum like $60 if you're gonna enter if you're gonna enter one game. And I was like, ooh, okay, little pricey for me, but hey, I just got I got some influx of Christmas money and birthday money, so hey, it's going to that, whatever. And maybe I would have actually entered for Rev 2 if I knew about the rollback thing. I was like, because it's the game I have the least experience in overall. But hey, I'm looking forward to that. Hey, if you're going to that, maybe we could do a little fan meetup or something. I don't know. I have no idea where the people who watch me live or who watch this podcast. I'll make like a community post about it or something like that, like the day before or something. I don't know. It'll be fun. I fully expect nobody to nobody to know who I am, from this channel at least. Yeah, so that's cool. On the 20th, let's go. Here's another story actually happening 2 days before that. January 18th, 11:59 p.m. So technically on the 19th, really. Stadia will be dead. Stadia has an official death date. Would you rather know how, or where, or when you die? Sorry. But we know the when. Stadia picked the when, and it's midnight, January 19th, technically. That is we've known about this. Was a long time coming. I'm honestly surprised that Stadia lasted this long. When did it launch? Like, oh my god, like Stadia launch. Fuck, was that like October 2018, publicly launched November 2019. Yeah. I'm amazed that it did not get shut down earlier. I almost have to wonder, like, was this making any money? Was this doing anything? I really don't have much to say on Google Stadia. Anything you could have said about it has already been said if you were paying attention to what it was and all of the weird flops they made. It made no sense for Google to get into the console space. It made no sense for, like, the technology just wasn't there. The business model didn't make sense. And actually, specifically, when we're talking about the business model not making sense, this story specifically reminds me about that, because it isn't just about the date of death. It is the fallout and what several publishers are doing to kind of help that, to kind of salvage their Stadia sales. Which is that. This one comes to us from The Verge. Google Stadia is shutting down soon. So transfer your games and saves while you can, courtesy of Jay Peters from The Verge. So basically, it's just a collection of... This article is just a bunch of different companies, publishers that are allowing you to transfer your games, like your ownership and your saves, your progress, to a different platform. Excuse me. So, if you are... I was about to say if you are a Stadia user, but I realized that with the viewership of this podcast, there's actually a very good chance that not a single person listening right now owned the Stadia or used it, paid for it, however you want to say it. So, hey, if you let me know in the comments, did you use this Google Stadia? What did you think of it? From the outside, it always looked like an incredible failure. And I think that this story in particular is really funny because, okay, Borderlands 3, Gearbox has outlined a way to bring your Stadia save to PC. Cyberpunk 2077 lets you bring your data to PC. Destiny 2 can bring it to, looks like any of the other platforms it's on. Hitman 3, transferred to PC, Xbox, or PlayStation. Elder Scrolls Online, transfer to PC. Ubisoft games, you can basically get a free PC copy. And it's so ironic to me because I thought part of the appeal of Stadia, or part of their market, was people who couldn't afford those things. Like, I thought the idea was, oh, you have a TV, and then you pay for the Stadia service, and it's really cheap, and you just pay a smaller, like, much more incremental monthly fee if you can't afford, like, a whole game console up front, I guess, or something like that, and then it would be cheaper for people who aren't able to afford top-end hardware, especially stuff like PCs. Which, you know, like, building a decent PC that can run any of these games it's not that expensive. It's like, I spent $1,200 total on mine, and that's including peripherals and stuff. Like monitor, keyboard, mouse, all that. it's not the most expensive thing in the world, but compared to, just dropping $500 on a console, it's definitely a lot more expensive. Now that also comes with obviously the added value of like, I do all my work on here. This is like the machine is at the center of my life, basically. But if you can't even, I guess, afford a console to play stuff on, hey, maybe for people in countries with bad like pricing, right? Like non-adjusted pricing. Like I know that was a problem in Brazil for a really long time. Was that consoles were classified as some due to some kind of tax thing. They just got taxed like to heaven and hell. So they were super expensive and unrealistic to buy, right? Basically. In the country. So, hey, maybe I can see that. Maybe I can see that working. Like in it could be in that kind of a market. Maybe not in like the U.S. where it's a little more appropriately priced, that kind of thing. But hey, maybe in countries with issues like that. There's a great Core A gaming video about Pakistani Tekken, and one of the great hurdles that they've had in Pakistan about which is games in general, is that there's like no official distributors for game consoles. So the only way that most people get their consoles is like when they're kids and like their parents go to Saudi Arabia to make the pilgrimage to the big cube. They go to Mecca. And in Saudi Arabia, the prices are way more reasonable, so they buy one as a gift and bring it home to the kids, and like that's how a lot of kids end up with game consoles and stuff like that. It's like, hey, maybe a situation like that. But then in the fallout of Stadia failing to find an audience, the solution that publishers have come to is now, this thing that I guess you didn't have enough money to buy, well, if you want to keep your saves, you'll have to buy one, I guess, if you don't have one. Like, if you say you don't have a computer that's strong enough to run Cyberpunk. Well, but you wanted to play, but you played it on Stadia, but you don't have a computer that's strong enough to run it. Well, you're out of luck. And it's just, I don't know, man. What a self-defeating system. I'm sure that it worked good for like a small handful of people. I'm sure that it worked wonders for them and for their use cases. But for the vast majority of people, it just didn't make any sense. Honestly, like, God, I remember when Destiny, when it came out, I think Destiny 2 was a launch title on Stadia, and it didn't have crossplay. You could literally only play with other people who had Stadia, which is weird because, does Destiny in general have crossplay? Destiny 2 crossplay. Gamers across all platforms currently supported by Destiny 2 are now able to jump in and play together. Oh yeah, so it does. When was that added? This says like January 2022. Oh, okay. Well, I guess crossplay didn't really hit Destiny 2 until like last year, almost to the day. Actually, that's weird. This article was January 17th. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's just a problem with the game in general. It's like, well, fuck. Not the best title to have on a system with a very small install base. Yeah. So, there's another article randomly that I just found when looking up like the launch date. Google Stadia has released one final game ahead of its shutdown. Those were the real losers. The indie developers who were totally in the dark about the shutdown, who had no idea, who probably might have even had exclusivity contracts. Yeah, that was who really lost. Google Stadia is officially shutting down on January 18th. The team behind the video game streaming service has gifted the world Worm Game, the final title that will be released for the platform and one that was used to test many of Stadia's features before it launched. So if you want to play, it can be played by anyone with a Chrome browser. And was it like Snake? It looks. Oh wow, this looks like it was made in Game Maker. Is it? These literally look like Game Maker assets. I had a copy of Game Maker when I was a kid, and I fucking never figured out how to use it. Yeah. Oh, you need to do so by January 18th. So you only have a few days until you can to play Worm Game. Interesting. There's just one last hurrah, I suppose. Yeah. I feel like game streaming is... I've heard people who say that, like, it's the future. I don't know if I agree with that. I would have... Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe there is a real use case. Like, hey, yeah, maybe like I said, maybe people who live in countries where it's hard to get games legally, right? Maybe people like that. Because, it requires... The thing about game streaming is you need a relatively consistent internet speed. You need low latency. Probably you don't want, oh god, you don't want delay-based netcode for every game kind of thing. And it's like, maybe there'll be some kind of network solution to that, but yeah, like you need if you have, it's, I guess, for people who have a consistent internet connection who cannot typically play games legally and have money. Yeah, it's literally just like a distribution solution rather than some kind of superior way to play. Like, I have no reason to be interested in Stadia or a game streaming service, really. A lot of people just buy the games that they want, and it's really not an issue. If you're a Stadia defender, or if there's something I'm missing and you're really into the idea of cloud gaming, let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely, like, I just hear people who, like, they throw their whole, like, they believe in game streaming, and I just don't see it. I'm just not sure why. I feel like I haven't heard a super compelling argument for it. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Stadia was just one of those examples of doing things too early, like V-Ream from the Urban Yeti video. Just VR, just like 20 years too early, Actually, more like 30 years too early, to be honest. Yeah. So hey, if you've been using any of these Stadia games, check out this article, and maybe you can save your games, I suppose. So there's another. Hey, talk about an incredible blunder. Skull and Bones has been delayed again for about the 6th time. So if you guys don't remember, and I don't blame you, Skull and Bones was basically it's an Ubisoft game. It's not vaporware. It's a development hell game. It's a hell game. Skull and Bones was inspired by, remember when Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag came out? And it was like every other Assassin's Creed game, except it had really cool ship stuff. Like, really cool naval combat and going around doing expeditions and stuff like that. And a lot of people actually really liked that. Ubisoft was like, hey, let's oh yeah, that's actually such a weird, funny timeline, because that stuff actually originated from AC3, the weird like American Revolution one. That stuff was in there, and then they were like, let's just make a whole game out of that. So it's weird because Black Flag was already kind of that game. It was just more of an Assassin's Creed game. I guess they decided, well, okay, let's do the third in the Ubisoft ship pirate simulator series, and let's just make it just about that, and no Assassin's Creeding. It's just we're gonna make a pirate game, and it's gonna be like all the stuff people liked from that. And that was, oh god, Skull and Bones announcement. Excuse me. It has a Wikipedia page. 2013. So 10 years ago they announced they started work on this. And mind you, yeah, so I guess that was probably just, so AC4 came out in 2013, so I guess what happened was they just saw the really positive reception to it, and were like, let's just do that, let's just go into that, let's just make a pirate game. So they probably announced it like before work had even really started, and then, oh yeah, it was an expansion for Black Flag. That's what it was. Yes, now I'm remembering the timeline. Thank you, Wikipedia article. It was an expansion for Black Flag. They were just gonna like a DLC pack essentially for AC4, and then it was supposed to be an MMO spin-off called Black Flag Infinite. And then they made it into its own independent game. So like now, like when that happened, you can do. I don't feel like doing all the research. I feel like I knew the whole story at one time, and it just kind of fell out of my head. The important thing is that this game is being developed by Ubisoft Singapore. And you're like, Singapore? I know Ubisoft has a lot of offices, but Singapore, really? Yeah. So they wanted to open. So here's the thing. So they wanted to open they opened an office in Singapore, and Skull and Bones was going to be their first title. The problem is that Skull and Bones has been marred with production issues. Like when I say development hell, there's like I remember reading this behind the scenes article, like into a bunch of anonymous interviews and stuff that basically painted it out to be a complete disaster. Management that doesn't know what they're doing, a super confused vision. I remember at one point reading a quote from a developer that said something like, we didn't understand, are you going to play as a person or a boat? Is the player controlled character a human being or the ship? They didn't understand that, and it was basically this cycle of, it's been locked in this cycle from what I remember from this fucking ancient ass article I read a year or two ago, that basically someone gets in charge. So the first person in charge of the project has a vision for the game. They end up leaving the company because of this or that. A new person takes the helm. Takes the helm. It's actually like a naval reference. They have a completely new vision for the game. We do that for 2 years, that person leaves the company. Rinse, repeat over and over and over again for 10 years. And you have Skull and Bones, a game that's been delayed 6 times, and no one knows what the fuck it's supposed to be. Till, like, eventually, I think the most recent version of the game that I think is coming out, I think they finally figured out what it's going to be, is you are just the boat, completely getting away from, like, the cool stuff from the Assassin's Creed games, where you were, like, a guy on the boat, and you were directing it, and then, like, you know, boarding other ships in, you know, like swashbuckling combat kind of thing. Just like, okay. And there's a Reddit thread. I was reading the Reddit thread about the delay. Not, I was about to say cancellation. About the delay. And there's someone linked. They showed from, like, the gameplay showcase from, like, last year or something like that, where there's, like, oh, part of the game is, like, you're collecting resources for your boat. It's like a trading system or something like that. You're collecting resources, and the way that they show that is the boat pulls up alongside an island, and there's a banana tree on the edge of the island, and they hold a button, and the banana tree just starts, like, telepathically shaking, and bananas start falling out, and then they are disappearing, and the counter for your bananas collected goes up. It's the funniest shit in the world. Just, like, it doesn't look like a real game. It looks like a joke. The boat is telepathically collecting bananas from the tree. It's so funny. And you might be wondering, well, why hasn't the game just been released? Why hasn't it just been canceled? Like, why are they even bothering? Well, when Ubisoft wanted to open this office in Singapore, I believe it was for tax reasons or something like that, they basically got a grant from the Singaporean government. And the Singaporean government said the conditions of the grant that we know of are that the studio, they will basically, like, fund some of the studio, right? They'll get some government funding. Government-funded Singapore pirate game. But in exchange, one of the stipulations is that Ubisoft Singapore has to put out a new IP. They have to put out a new IP. And if they don't, we don't know what the terms of the contract are, right? We don't know what the potential punishment is, but they are liable to Singaporean law, which includes caning. I'm going to repeat that. Caning. As in, this is a very long shot, and I don't think this would ever happen. But I think it's really funny that because Singapore still employs corporal punishment in the form of beating you with a cane, that if they don't release this game ever, I don't know who, the studio heads, Yves Guillemot, that little rat, would have to be beaten in the street with a cane. Obviously, I mean, I'm assuming that wouldn't happen, but the thought alone is awesome. Like, it really is hilarious to me. So more likely, so you're like, okay, well then why? Okay, at this point, if they have to put it out, and they could get caned if they don't, why don't they just cut their losses, say fuck it, put out the game, bare bones, whatever, you know, just shit out the game, move on, right? Well, there is a comment on this Reddit thread that is pretty elucidating. What the fuck is it? Where is it? Here it is. Someone writes on the thread, named Sile, the user Sile Spawn. They write, while I'm not aware of the content of the contract, having worked with large companies pulling grant money from the government of a certain country, expose me to how those grants are very tight with their conditions to prevent people from abusing and throwing out a bare-bones product. From the particular companies and government contracts I dealt with, a few of the conditions included an income statement for the company/project on a quarterly basis, a cash flow statement showing how much money granted is spent, matching investment to the dollar granted, as in for each dollar the grant provides, the company has to spend $2 on the project. If the grant is significant, and the definition of significant varies, there's third-party panels appointed to scrutinize the project over at every point of development. They don't... Okay, it just says if the grant is significant. Okay. And stakeholders' feedback is requested regularly. Then, after the project is complete, depending on what it is, there might be more objectives. In the case of a product that requires distribution/sales, some conditions could be the copies sold, gross turnover, ratings on certain platforms or websites and/or the group of the platform/website, the general reception of the product. Do reviews/feedback hint that the product underperformed by a huge margin? And a focus group of stakeholders. And then they write, and much, much, much more the bigger the grant is. I've seen a lot of horror stories where companies take grants and couldn't conform with all the conditions, then pump out a fake product to satisfy the conditions just to get hit with heavy penalties, converting the grant into a loan with interest and so on. So if they just shit out an unfinished game and it sells badly and it reviews poorly and reflects poorly on the company, that could still be grounds for like a failure to hold up their end of the contract. The Singaporean government, they're trying to stimulate their economy, right? That's why they give them a grant for this stuff. They say, hey, you're a big tech business, right? You're a big software business. We're going to give you some a nice hefty grant to put out a game. We're gonna get the ball rolling. We're gonna help you get the ball rolling by giving you a grant. And if everything goes well, then you're gonna stimulate our economy. We're going to have tech jobs. That's going to attract, workers. That's going to attract other companies to the area. And it's going to be good overall. And this is basically their investment. They're going to maybe, lose a little money up front, spend a little money up front in the investment for the long-term benefit of the Singaporean economy. And if the game just fucking flops, I mean, they're not patrons, right? The government here is not being a patron to Ubisoft. They are investing in them. And if the investment fails to make enough back, basically, if it fails to help the economy in the way that they want it to, then they're not going to be happy. Right? They're not going to take that sitting down. Standing down. They're not going to take that standing down. So if the game comes out bad, it's bad publicity, it's bad press, it's a big failure. The studio could close. Ubisoft could close the studio straight up. And that would just be a complete waste of money for all the grant money that the government's given them. So all of these could risk breaking the contract. And like this person in the comments points out, if the contract if they're basically unsuccessful, or if they fail, the grant could turn into a loan. Like, say you give them $1 billion. Well, that could now be $1 billion loan. And you got to pay that back to them. It goes to change the definition to a loan, and it's got interest. And Ubisoft is already not doing great in terms of sales. There were some recent articles about how their sales have been pretty dry recently. They've killed a lot of goodwill that they had with a lot of their series. The cash cows are running dry. And they might be getting a little too big for their britches, I guess. A bubble popping, perhaps? I don't know. I feel a little bad about this, because I met someone who was really nice who worked at Ubisoft. Not in like a development side, but they were great. I met them through my work with the Maid when I was at GDC. And they were really nice. And there's obviously a lot of nice people and good people who work there. And that's one of the shames of situations like this, which is that there's lots of like good like people who work there who obviously do a good job, and or they work hard, right? And they should be good at their job. And then terrible management basically just... You remember when I said a couple episodes ago, I said something like, there's more management positions than there are good managers, or there's more leadership positions than there are good leaders. Yeah. God, every day the games industry is such a perfect lens. I didn't get that from anyone. That's a quote from me, baby. This industry is such a good exemplar of that. Oh, you know what this reminds me of? Chronicles of Illyria. Chronicles of Illyria. Go look up a video of who did the video on that? Kira TV. There's been a bunch of videos about this game. It was like a Kickstarter MMO, like sandbox survival MMO that was just way too overambitious. Excuse me. And basically now the game is not, like, it's not happening. Like, it's a big fucking disaster. But the developer is basically stuck. Excuse me. The developer is basically stuck in this situation where, because he got other people to invest in the game, this might have been through Kickstarter, or like investors through Kickstarter, or maybe something else, like venture capital or something. Basically, the investors have him by the balls, and if they don't keep putting out like proof that they're actually working on the game, any other instance, this would have just been, they would have just canceled it and moved on, and just eaten the loss. But because basically, if they fail to, if the game dies for real officially, he could get like sued into oblivion by the shareholders, or sorry, the investors. So he's basically stuck putting out like monthly updates on this game that is never going to come out. Like literal hell. It's like a Greek. It's some modern day equivalent of like, you know, Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill, or something, like one of those just stories of people trapped in hell. Yeah, that's what the whole Skull and Bones thing comes at. Man, I wish there was a... There's oh wait, what's that? There's a pirate game, isn't there? What's that pirate game? Because I like the Sea of Thieves. I never actually checked out Sea of Thieves. Maybe I should. What is... Oh yeah, it's a Rare game. I totally forgot about that. Maybe I should check, because the idea of like a pirate game is cool to me. It's a cool idea. I like the idea of going around doing pirate stuff. I'm not a huge fan of the art style. I kind of want a grittier pirate game, but whatever. I've heard, I don't know, it's, yeah, man, 2018, this feels like a game that's just been kind of out there. I feel like it had a rough launch, and I just kind of like forgot about it, and then I guess it's just kept on trucking. Is Sea oh my god, people also ask, is Sea of Thieves a toxic game? Oh, apparently it's not. Someone says it's the least toxic multiplayer game that they've played. Huh, well, alright. Well, anyway. Hey, here's a fun little story. The entire TF2 Asset repo has been leaked. Basically, a gigantic... So someone called Richter Overtime on Twitter, at Richter Overtime, has gotten hand... I'm not sure like where this is available, but there's like a 61 gigabyte drop of an unfathomable amount of assets from TF2's development over many years, and it's pretty interesting. Like lots of in development maps, weapons that never released. Like there's a some kind of early version of like the bone saw, like the medic's bone saw. Some interesting models. There's like, God, it looks like a level, I don't know, it's like a gigantic engineer turret that has a teleporter built on top of it. There's like a big mech. There's a witch who looks like Eno. I don't know, like what is it's neat. I'd go check it out. Lots of like early just models and stuff like that. And I think that there was might have been a bunch of concept art. I saw a different, I don't know, this might have been a different thing, or this might have just been a thing that Valve released themselves, but it was actually a really cool, it looked like from the development, from the game's development, alternate female versions of all of the TF2 characters. And it's great. Like, they all look great. Hang on. Female TF2 characters. Yeah, let me find this. Yeah, character concepts. These might have just been, like, for fun. Yeah, it was... Okay, so this was official. Former Valve artist has shared some fantastic concept art for potential female Team Fortress 2 characters. Yeah, so it was just he just kind of dropped this. I don't know if this was ever seriously considered or just something he kind of did for fun during development, or maybe they were toying around with the idea of having different models and stuff. It eventually got scrapped for the all male cast, but a lot of these concepts look great. Like a lot of these characters look super duper cool. The TF2 art style is so like malleable, and you can do so much with it. That like even just taking, and it's funny because you can look at almost every single character here. The only one I got confused with, there's a concept for medic that I thought was sniper for a second. But you can look at pretty much any one of these, and they have little icons on the bottom right to denote what class it's supposed to be. But you can look at any of them and basically tell which class they're supposed to be. Like there's a bunch of cool concepts for the scout. There's one for this the heavy. Like it's really neat just to see like I guess 1950s style women dressed as like the TF2 designs kind of, and not like put them in the costume, like different concepts. Like there's one here, there's a concept for who's that? Yeah, Spy. It's really cool. Or she looks like she's just in like this like tight kind of like how would I describe, what kind of a coat is this? It's like a black, is that like a pea coat? I'm not sure what it is, with like a it kind of flares out, and so it almost looks like a mini skirt, and a little like scarf. There's like a concept for there's like a lot of concepts actually for Scout that look pretty different, but all really recognizable because of. It's funny because he has such a simple design that it's like, oh, you just wear a shirt and a backpack, and all of them have that same kind of shirt, the backpack, and the headset. and sometimes the hat. Really cool. Yeah, check it out. No, but to get back to this leak, I guess it's neat. I don't know where this came from. There isn't like a lot of info on it. A lot of people are kind of dooming about how somehow this means the end of the game or something like that. I don't know, but it's cool, and I'm assuming, I think on the bright side, if there is any kind of negative, on the bright side, once this kind of gets more widely accessible, probably going to be a bunch of fan-made content that's really cool. I mean, fan content's basically kept TF2 alive for forever. For like literal years. So I mean, hey, there's something kind of interesting to me about the idea of a game that's entirely just run by fans, I suppose. Like, trying to think of examples. Just games that have basically been run by fans that are not officially just abandoned by the developer. Like, obviously something like a resurrected MMO or something like that. But I guess TF2 is kind of the prime example, to be honest. Because of the workshop, it kind of offers one of the highest, the most extensive levels of community modding and creation and stuff. Yeah, no, it's neat. Check it out if you're interested at all in TF2. I'll have both of those things linked down below. I got one more thing. So I did a stream the other day, and probably didn't catch it because I think I had 7 peak viewers, but whatever. If you didn't catch it, it was I played a little game called Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. Very mouthful of a title. DDS. DDS. Let's call it that. So the way that I discovered this game was that one morning I got an email from the developer who sent me a Steam key for it. And that's literally the whole story. I saw the email. I thought it was a spam. I thought it was spam at first, but it didn't get caught. Usually my spam filter catches that stuff, but I looked at it, and then I was kind of looking for something that I was like, okay, oh, this is kind of different. It's like, what is a Steam key for a game? Is this going to be something fishy? Is this sort of shady? And then I looked through the email, and there really wasn't. I was looking for, typical scam stuff, like alarming sort of language, like you got to do it now kind of thing, the time pressure, like phishing stuff, like, hey, click on this link and put in your details, that sort of thing. And there wasn't any of that. It was basically just a couple screenshots of the game, a summary of what the game was, like a description of it, and then at the very top was just a plain text, just copy-paste code for the game. And so I copy-pasted it into Steam, and lo and behold, it worked. It actually worked. So I emailed the developer back and I said, hey, I'm replying because this seems legitimate, and so thank you. They ended up actually replying to me. Oh, the other thing was that the name, I looked the game up, and it's on Steam. It is a real game, and the developer, this is like their first game, at least that they've published under this name. They are also the same email that sent it to me. So everything kind of it was weird, and it was unexpected, but everything seemed to check out, and the developer actually responded to me, and they were really nice, and they were really cool about it. So we finally made it to the big time, boys. We're getting free games through email. I'm getting sent Steam keys for free. And you know what's so funny? So the reason that I got this game specifically is apparently, according to the dev, they had been recommended my video on had seen my video on Divine Cybermancy, and because this game, in their words, shares a lot of DNA with they decided to send me a key for it. And I found that very funny because I spent the majority of that like hour and 15-minute video ripping that game up and about all the things that I didn't like about it. So I figured, hey, that's pretty cool of them. I'll check it out. I thought that was kind of funny that they decided, due to my video, to send me that. But I checked it out. I booted. I played it. I went through it. I had my first playthrough of it on stream, and it's really fucking cool. It's a really fucking cool game. I like it a lot. Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum is essentially a top-down immersive sim, which I can definitely see some of the influences from in certain ideas. Like there's ideas it's taking from at least from what I can tell right now. I have how many hours have I put into it? 8.5 hours. I played it for like 3 hours on stream, and then I played like it for like fucking 5 hours yesterday. And so only 8 hours in. Can't say I've seen, and it seems like a game that's quite extensive. It's early access, I should mention. There's a demo, which I would recommend that you go check out. It's early access, and I'm playing the beta. But it feels very extensive. A lot of the ideas that it seems to lift from are the cool ones, I guess. It seems like I can definitely see like this was obviously made by someone who thinks that game has cool ideas, but they were doing it in a way that's a lot easier to like digest. Like the things that I didn't like about in very broad terms, gameplay wise, not going to get into the story at all, was just that the game, well, honestly, to be really nitty gritty with it, the enemy spawning sucks. I don't like how it works. And mechanically, there's just it's like it fails. Yeah, someone wrote a comment on my video. It fails to communicate the way that the game is supposed to be played, sort of. There's a million ways to play but it's really easy to pick a bad one. And that was like why I had such a poor first interaction with it. First playthrough of was that like I played it like how I would play any other video game, and I suffered for it. DDS does not really suffer from that problem as far as I can tell. Oh boy, my stomach hurts. I gotta go to the bathroom. Alright, where was I? So it's a top-down game with pretty simple graphics. Not quite ASCII art, but definitely going for like a very simple, like you could pretty much look at almost anything and generally understand what it is, or approximately what it's about to be. It definitely reuses icons for important kind of recurring objects throughout missions. But it has a very strong presentation. It's simple graphics, but with a strong presentation. It has this kind of like bubble TV effect over the whole thing. Just this very subtle, like you're looking at it through. It's got a little bit of like curve to the screen, and it starts by default with scan lines that you could toggle on and off. You can get vertical scan lines too. And it's going for like a simple, clean, easily readable, but pretty stylish sort of aesthetic. The music is wonderful. It's very like chilled out, kind of slow, usually slow. I guess just like electronic music, like ambience, really. Like it's always like raining or snowing, if we're in the outside or something like that. Like heavy atmosphere, even with this very stripped back sort of presentation. Really cool. And then gameplay wise, it's definitely doing its own thing, but I can see the clear inspirations from games like and other. The only other immersive sim I've really played is Deus Ex, and Deus Ex is definitely a lot more story intensive. I guess I should get into the basically the premise of DDS. It's basically the game opens and you have died. You've died and been brought back to life by a mysterious corporation, but the services to bring you back to life are not cheap. So you are now that you've been resurrected, I'm assuming against your will, you are basically in debt to them. You have a debt of I think $1 million that you have to pay off to them. And in order to pay it off, you have to become an agent of theirs and complete mysterious missions that involve some sort of espionage, subterfuge, assassination. You're given the basics of the mission of what you have to do and why, but you don't know what is the data that was stolen? Who are these people? What does this corporation do? Nothing about it really makes sense. You're in the dark about a lot of it, and it takes on this kind of mission-based structure where in between missions you can go to your apartment, which is it's your base of operations, where you basically just access your computer, and that's where you can kind of do all the in-between stuff like upgrading your weapons, buying new weapons, investing into the little skill categories. They aren't trees. They're basically just you use these little chiplets, these little collectible chiplets as currency to buy a access to that's what it is, access to a skill folder. They're literally arranged like folders. And there's something I want to say 12 of them, and there's 3 hidden. There's 3 ones that are just X'd out. I don't know what the deal is with those. Maybe they're coming in future updates. One of the things I thought was really funny was that one of them, there's a weird blank on the screen for the folders for these skill areas. There's a blank spot, and I moused over it, and guess what it is? It's the stealth skill. It's the stealth skills literally hidden from you. Really funny. I like that quite a bit. That's charming. I was expecting it to be a lot more basic, I guess. There's the game in general, much less fleshed out than it feels, at least. Maybe I'll hit a wall or something where, development's pretty much stopped, where get up to where the development is finished. But for the time being, it's very it feels very full. Maybe there's even more stuff that I haven't that I don't even know about that's going to be added in the future. But already it feels like a very solid game, a solid foundation and more. The individual missions themselves, you accept them from your computer, and then you go out to the helipad, and they'll usually be, I think I've counted about 4 different types of missions. It'll be you have to kill somebody, you have to spike a computer, you have to stand on a spot for a certain amount of time that's somewhere in the level, or you have to I forget what the last one is. Oh, you have to get an item. I haven't done the basically the collect missions. That's what they're called. I haven't done one of those yet. The gameplay itself is it's kind of one of the hard things about describing immersive sims, is because there's a lot of stuff going on. Essentially, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about interacting with the world in order to complete the objective. But one of the big ones is hacking. So there is a combat system. There's guns with randomly generated stats, which can be upgraded. There are melee weapons, also with randomly generated stats. And then there's like grenades. I haven't used many of the grenades yet, but same deal. Randomly generated stats, and then even like your body you can switch out. It's called the skeleton. You can basically switch that out, and that gives you different options as well. You can go buy them from the shop at your computer. It's basically... Okay, so how would I describe a mission? Hacking is a big part of it, and the hacking is really neat, because essentially there's all of these... Everything is a computer. It's like Mega Man Battle Network. Everything is a computer, and if you are if you have line of sight to the computer, you have a little like sight radius around you. If you have line of sight to it, you can basically hit tab to open up your laptop and begin hacking, and you'll basically get like a DOS prompt or like a command line prompt. And it took a minute. It took a little bit, to like an hour or two, to get used to all the different commands. But there aren't like actually too many. It's basically you hop to a computer to access it, and then you can pull up a graph, which is basically a map, and the map shows you all of the different computers that you have seen and how they connect to each other. So you connect to like a node, for instance, and nodes are pretty much just, they're there for sight. They're there for like remote connection to establish line of sight. So you can connect to a node, and then you look at the graph, and the graph you can see, oh, there's a node way up further in the level. There's like node 2. So then you can hop to node 2 and then snap your view to node 2, and that will basically make your perspective focused on that area of the map, on that node. And that will let you see more computers and gain line of sight with them, and then by line of sight, you can hop into those computers. And you can pull off some very like tricky, like hopping from one place to another. Like it's very expansive the way you can actually like tackle a lot of problems. And this is sort of balanced by the fact that, and then like computers themselves, nodes, you can't really do anything besides just hop between them. But there's other things that have like specific commands that you can use. So for instance, you can hop into a camera, you can suspend the camera. You can hop into a turret, you can suspend it. You can make it self-destruct. You can befriend it so that it will basically shoot hostiles for you. Or you can just straight up pilot it and gain control of it. You can hack into enemies. That's a very I thing. Like that's the deal. It definitely, like, when I say like the DNA of I, or how the developer said the DNA of I, one of the cool things about I that I didn't really touch just because there's so much in that game and is that you can like hack into like anything. You can hack into other enemies in I. And one of the things that's like neat, one of the things that I think this game executes a lot better on is that when you want to hack into something, you just write the command. You just write hop into and then the name of the computer you want to hop into. That's it. Like that's all you got to do. In I, when you want to do that, you have to pull up, like, you want to hack into any single computer or anything, you got to play like a Final Fantasy 1 turn-based RPG combat sequence before you can hack into it. And if you fail in your hack, then you can get counter-hacked and have a seizure and die. And this is while the game is like spawning enemies out of sight from you, who can pick up on your location and just run into you while you're trying to do some gosh darn hacking. And it feels, it's like a lot of things in I, it's just so hard to use. In this game, again, you hop into it. And that's not to say that there's no drawbacks. There's definitely like obstacles. You can't just hop into stuff willy-nilly. Namely, the security system. So basically every level has some kind of an overlord, which is basically the security system that is tapped into every single computer on the map. And the overlord, the first time you hop into a computer, you basically alert the overlord. And you basically have a percentage chance for the overlord to give you a negative penalty. Some sort of, not like Guilty Gear, just but some kind of yeah, so some kind of penalty, some sort of punishment or status effect or something like that. The ones that I've seen are like Dutch. There's like a debuff that's like a Dutch angle, where it's literally like it makes everything tilted on your screen. I've seen it can like flip the camera upside down. It can reverse your controls. It can just black out certain parts of the screen. It can make it so that you can't. It limits your UI, so you can't see like how much ammo you have left in your gun, for instance. It can do things like forcibly discharging your weapon, so you have to reload. You can, and which also creates noise. It can just take like $100 out of your account. It can, what else? I feel like there's some other stuff, but like lots of different penalties that you can incur that can be pretty scary. And you can even hack into the Overlord. You can hack into the Overlord and suspend that and like turn it off, basically. So even that is vulnerable. But basically, like, so the danger with the Overlord, it's basically a risk-reward mechanic, because there is I don't know what the game calls it. I'll just call it like the danger level. So the first time you hop into a computer, you start off at, you alert the Overlord and you're at like 20% danger, which means you have a 20% chance anytime you hop into a computer into a new computer. You can freely hop into ones you've already gotten into before, which is nice. But hopping into a new computer, you have a 20% chance to get a penalty. And from there, you basically have 2 new hops. You can hop into 2 more new computers before you go up to 40%. You go up to 40% danger level. Now, you have a 40% chance to incur a penalty anytime you hop into a new computer. And it keeps going up and up. Naturally, so yeah, you can hop into the Overlord and disable that if you can find it. Although it's pretty expensive. And that's the other limiting factor, is everything has a data point cost. So data points are a resource that you get from looking at new computers. So basically, like being able to detect new computers, getting them in your line of sight. Or I invested in the hacker skill first, which lets you kind of hack stuff through walls, through at least like one wall, basically, between you and the computer. Having that like basically lets me detect and pick up on computers that I can't have direct line of sight with. So you get a bunch of free data points, basically. Doing pretty much anything costs some kind of data points. You'll have to like check. You can, at any point, you can like look up, you can hit like NS to look at your neighbors, which are computers that you can hop into either via like line of sight or something that you're already connected to. And it'll show you how many data points it costs to hop into. So nodes are pretty much all universally 0. They're all free to hop into. A camera will usually be like two data points to hop into. And it keeps going up. And Overlord is like 8. And then to do more commands with it from like the computer you're hacked into, you also often costs data points. So you hop into a turret and it'll say like, you can just turn it off, I think, for like 1 data point. You can turn it back on for, I think, free after you turn it off. You can is it confuse? Confuse is something you can do to enemies. I think it costs 3 points. No, it costs 2. And that's where it'll just become hostile to anything. So you can hack into an enemy, confuse them, and then they can go on a rampage if they have a good enough weapon. They go on a rampage and clear out a bunch of enemies for you remotely. And if you've snapped your view to them so they're your perspective character, they can get you a bunch of free data points by walking around and exposing a bunch of computers for you. So that's cool. That'll cost like, 2 points. To pilot or befriend, I think, will cost like 3 data points. And there's like skills. So when you unlock a skill folder, you get access to a bunch of optional perks. And you can, I think, have like 3 perks from that, and then you can pick 3 different skills. There's a bunch, and every one has like, yeah, perks. Yeah, so perks are one thing. You get like 3, there's 3 different perks from each folder. And you can basically pick 3 of them, but you have to unlock extra slots. You only start out with like 1 slot for a perk. So I picked the one that lets me hack through walls, but also means that every time I open or close my laptop, it makes a sound, which can alert enemies. They'll have like some kind of drawback like that to them. And then in skills, you have like 3 different skill slots that you can map. Every single folder has like 6 or something different skills. So for the hacking one, it's like, oh, you can get a you will just hit a button, get like 5 free data points. But every time you use it, it makes it, oh god, I forgot about the ego points. So ego is basically what you use, the resource you use to use your skills. And different skeletons, the different bodies you can use, have different max ego. I don't think there's any other way to get them back, to get ego points back after you've spent them. So, like this, I think it's called Data Scraper, is the skill that gives you more data points. You can use that, and it's like, it only costs 1 ego at first. And the character I'm using has like 12 ego points because I leveled them up a lot, but like I think the starting body that I had like 2. Every time you use Data Scraper, it doubles, I think, in cost. So it goes from 1 data to 2 to 4. There's just like it's a really fucking cool game. I've sort of hit a wall where I'm on a mission that is just really, really difficult, and just like trying to work my way through it, and I just keep fucking dying. I guess I should talk about that. The game does tell you up front when you first boot it up, it is very difficult, and it tells you. It makes no bones about it. It says like you will die a lot, and every time you die, it adds 1 million to your debt. And every day you go by, it adds 1% interest to your debt. It's one of those. I had the feeling like I was worried about paying it off at first. You can pay it off from your computer, so you basically have to choose to spend either. I wish there was a way to just spend part of your money, but you have to transfer all of it if you want to pay off your debt. So it's either that, or you buy things in the shop, or upgrade stuff, basically. Like that's the choices you have with your money. And at first, I didn't see what the point was in paying off the debt, because it almost seemed like, I'm pretty sure paying off the debt is just a long-term hardcore goal that like you're not realistically supposed to be able to do it. Kind of like student loans. You're just like a debt slave. It's just there to basically be a thing. I wasn't quite sure what the point was. Because it adds so much debt so often. Like I walked into my apartment one time and there was a gift for me, and I opened it and it just added 1 million to my debt. I was like, great, thanks. But there are benefits to paying it off. So like I'm pretty sure there's penalties if you don't pay it off enough. Like if you go too many days without paying off your debt, I think you can get some kind of penalty. And if you pay it off, you get access to new. So I got like an NPC showed up outside I was on my way to a mission, and suddenly an NPC shows up outside the helipad, and they basically read me a script that says, "Hey, you need, you've been paying off your debt." They have like a script from the company. You've been paying off your debt real good, and you qualified to enter our like premium program, and you get to take part in these like, what are they called? Simulation missions, basically, like which are like these training exercises, and they're like, they're really easy, and you can make like a lot of money from them. I was like, okay, cool. So I did like 3 of them, and then on the 3rd one, it's like it turns like you just get kind of like radioed in, and it just tells you like, hey, this mission sucks because it's really bad. It's like you have to go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down this corridor. Just you open a door, and then the door has it's like this corridor that just stretches super far north and super far south, and you're in the very middle, you open a door below you, you go into that room, you open the door that's like 2 rooms above you now, and you just go back and forth. It's basically like a troll level, essentially. So you get like radioed in from someone who tells you like, hey, this sucks, let's do a different one. And then it ends up taking you on this weird, like, this person who, like, I thought was one character but might not be, taking you on this, like, mission to basically quote unquote pull a prank on people from like the simulation department. Then it turns into this like whole weird thing where it's like, wait, what am I doing? Who am I doing this for? You'll get emails, which is how you get all your missions. You'll get emails from people who are just like, you just do random missions for them. You don't know who they are. And then it turns out that they're like from the company, maybe, but you don't know. And it was like a test in a certain way. It's definitely like fucking with you in a, like, you never quite know what's going on. It's very obtuse and, dare I say, Kafkaesque. Probably not. It's probably an incorrect use of Kafkaesque. But like it's what would I? One of those just sort of mysteries where like you don't quite know what's going on. It's very vague and enigmatic. It's sort of neat. So I'm doing missions, and at some point I'm like, wait, am I? Like, I have an option to kill a character or not, who's not hostile to me, and I'm like, I don't want to kill them, because they seem chill. And then they end up betraying me as soon as I leave the room, and I'm like, awesome, great. All these like very immersive sim decisions. Like, God, I remember in Deus Ex, I don't want to spoil it, but there's basically an entire character death that you can prevent by just killing a specific NPC. Not even like a named NPC, just this one specific NPC who's a little suspicious. You can just kill them and prevent a character from dying in the story like hours later. Literally like 20 hours later in the game. It's that I don't know if that quite extensive, but just that sort of like, you get a lot of like decisions, and it makes you kind of question the limits. Immersive sims are a great sort of genre for that kind of a story, because it's a genre that makes you question the limits of what you as the player can do. What are the limits of interacting with the world and affecting the story? And it's one of those like kind of question everything type of things. And it's great for stories or settings where you don't quite know what's possible. Maybe I could kill. Maybe I should. Maybe I can do this or that. Maybe I have some kind of weird, there's some sort of weird obscure thing, like I'm going to finish the game and then I'm going to go find a video of someone in like mission 3 doing this thing I never would have even thought was possible, and then finding this secret that sets off this whole like little mini storyline. I'll be like, what the fuck? That kind of thing. Is that in this game? I have no idea, but that's kind of what's fun about it. Again, it feels very solid. Like, there's just stuff that happens that I'm like, oh, what's going on? I don't know. Like, characters will just show up. There's just sort of like weird kind of foreboding things. Like, there's corpses in your apartment one time when I visit. I think they're corpses. It's great. The vibe, the atmosphere, the gameplay is really, it's really fun. It has all these like heavy, if you like games with problem solving that test your problem solving skills under duress, this is a great game for you, because I ended up approaching a lot of these missions like they were puzzles, where I figured out a way that I kind of wanted to go about the mission, and then I tried to figure out, okay, how do I actually pull this off from both like a decision making, like what steps should I take and when, what's the most efficient, how do I incur the least amount of penalties, how do I risk the least to do it this way, and at the same time having like an actual like combat sort of action element to it to sort of keep you on your toes. Really cool. Apparently you can hack bullets in this game. I have not done that yet, but apparently you can. Oh, and there's like a Matrix slowdown mode you can go into. You have like a resource. It's called like slug. You can go into slug mode. I haven't used it a ton, but it's cool. Some of the guns feel real. I love like the bolt weapons that are just like it's like basically like little snipers. They're really fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's very extensive. I if you watch the stream, I spent a lot of time. I spent like the first kind of half of that just kind of getting my head, trying to wrap my head around the game. But once I did, just reading, like, it has an in-game wiki, which is always a good sign. To just like explain basic game mechanics and stuff like that. And once I kind of got my head around the basics, I was more familiar with how the hacking worked, and I was able to kind of do it. You physically hack, like you type commands in. You aren't just picking them off of a list. I feel like it would have been easy to just do click on the thing that you want to hop into, get the I'm sure that there's totally a way to do this with like a graphical interface, but there's something kind of fun about, and I'm sure someone this would be a great game to have mods for, like modding ability, because I'm sure someone would make a mod that just gives a visual interface to all the different hacking options that you can do. But like part of the fun is for physically typing the commands into the prompt. It's really cool. So yeah, once I kind of got the hang of all that, it becomes super smooth. Like the game just plays really, really well. Hacking stuff, and then like I had a situation where I hacked into like an enemy who then like basically like they detected me and then started running at me, and right before they get to me with like their big damage melee weapon, I was like, oh fuck, I like hit tab to open up the prompt again, and I just typed kill, and it made them self-destruct like an inch from being able to kill me. And like that stuff is fun. That stuff is really cool. I was expecting a lot more bugs, because they said expect bugs, and it's early access and everything. But I did not encounter any bugs as far as I know. Maybe there's something, but nothing that was obviously a bug. Maybe something that the developer would look at and go, oh, that's not supposed to work like that. But to me, I didn't notice it, and there was nothing game breaking to me. No crashes, no weird glitchiness as far as I could tell. Pretty solid. The only criticism I would have is really kind of surface level stuff. I like in the menus, I don't like how when you mouse over an item, so the text is white, right? When you mouse over an item, the whole, like, what would you call it, the block, that whole item in the list, the whole listing becomes white. Excuse me. Is there a term for that? Like the segments of a list, where it'll be like, hey, this is the name of the weapon, here's the cost, here's like some quick notes about its stats and stuff like that. That whole UI element. With the text is white, when you mouse over it, the whole thing becomes white, and it basically gets you can't read it. You have to click on it to look at the stats then. And I found that kind of annoying. I wish that it just inverted. I talked about this on the stream because I immediately kind of picked that out. I wish that the text would just invert color to like a black when you mouse over it, because when I'm mousing down a list of things, visually, so that I can, when I'm looking down a list, visually, I want to have some kind of distinction, so that my eyes, I'm not like, my eyes don't get jumbled up in a big list with a bunch of information. So having like a little light up, a little prompt thing, or just some kind of color change to indicate that it's moused over. I mean, that's why that kind of feedback is important, and it's important for me at least, for scrolling through a list. And I visually want my eyes to follow where my mouse cursor is going. Because I want everything to be, I want to be following it with my cursor, basically. And when it whites out, I can't do that, and it's kind of obnoxious. Not game-breaking at all. It's just like, I would change that. Just a little quality of life thing, just a little usability thing. It also warns that at the start of the game that it might have some things that could trigger people with photosensitive epilepsy. So I put that in the title of my stream, and actually the entire time I never ran into a single thing that I think would have caused it. I guess it's fine to include that warning, but I wouldn't be too freaked out about it myself if I was photosensitive. A photosensitive epileptic. Yeah, I mean, those are really like my only complaints. Like I'm really enjoying the game. It's quite good. It's an early access game, which unfortunately, have a bad rep, and understandably so. And there's obviously, there's a reason for it. But this is genuinely a game that I think even in early access, even in build 0.6.9.8.7, whatever it's on, I think is totally worth checking out. At least check out the demo. And I cannot wait for more content to be added. Apparently there's like an entire roguelike built into the game. There's like a practice thing that you can go into from the menu, and one of the modes in the practice thing it's called like rogue something, like rogue agent or something like that. And it's literally just like, hey, randomly generated missions. I didn't try it out. Maybe that's super buggy. But like, because I was looking at it, I'm like, this game, like because like I could see just like a level editor for this game being like so, not easy, but like it's such a, like a no-brainer almost. Like a level, like a map editor where people can make custom missions. It already has like an optional missions thing from like, you can go to like a bulletin board service from your computer and then accept optional missions for extra money. And like people making like user created missions, user created like mission packs, because it's just it's just making geometry, and then there's all these different stage elements. When I say geometry, lines, making rooms and stuff like that, placing characters. It's like, yeah, just the potential for like user generated content and even randomly generated content. Obviously, maybe you'd need some sophisticated thing to keep it, not being a total mess, but that's all roguelikes, Man, this game has so much potential, and probably a bunch that I haven't even seen yet. I'm super into it, so go check it out. It'll be linked down below. I'll link the Steam page. It's Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum by the developer No Day Shall Escape You. So shout out to them. And I think with that, I'm probably going to call it a day. Yeah, we've gone for like hour 40. Yeah, so if you've been listening this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, please leave it down in the comments below, but please leave it in the form of a question, because I don't just want to read your thoughts out loud. New video probably sometime next week. It's going to be cool. I kind of want maybe a little bit of like a topic I would have covered on a few years ago, like 2 years ago or something like that, but without bad editing and sound. So it's a classic gaming history thing, and it's going to be positive. Wow, that's all I'll give you. It's been cool it's been cool. Yeah, I really don't have anything else. Main channel, Patreon, that's it.